What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Stan the Beard Guy channel. Today we are talking about the Arturia KeyLab 88 Mark III. So if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that when I first started this channel, I had an M Audio Hammer 88. I love that keyboard, but it was too big for this sliding desk tray, so I had to get rid of it. I love that thing. It felt awesome. And then I got a Studio Logic 88 key studio keyboard. I hated that thing, so I got rid of it. And then I landed on the Korg D1, and I've had that for, man, 3 or 4 years. I've had that for quite a while, and I love the Korg D1. But the one thing that I've been missing, even though the action feels great on the Korg, I've been wanting just some integration on the keyboard side, having faders and encoders and transport controls and just a little bit more options here to get my hands out of the, clicking and dragging filters and attacks and ADSR envelopes and, just a little bit more integration here. And so I reached out to Arturia. I have a KeyLab, you can't see it, but a 49 key that I use sometimes as like a second keyboard. It's always felt great, even though it's, not fully weighted, it's always been a great second keyboard option. I reached out to Arturia and said, hey, would you be willing to send this to me for me to check out? They were graciously willing to send this over for me to have and then just play with. And I have to say, so far, I love this thing. It has all the integration that I want. It integrates with the Arturia synths that I did a review on recently extremely well. Which is huge. We'll get into that later on in this video. But I love this thing. So let's kind of get into the review of this. As always, like, share, comment, sub, all the things y'all do to help me out. It's super helpful. I'm super grateful. Go check me out on Instagram. Go listen to my music on Spotify under Sam Garner. I've got courses, the whole shebang. I won't bore you with all that, but check the description for more info in the comments. So let's dig into this keyboard. Here's the one thing that I'm going to say about the keyboard that I think has been a little bit of a learning curve for me. I am so used to the Korg D1 and how good it feels that this keyboard took me a few days to kind of get used to. The Korg D1 feels incredible. So it's really unfair to compare most MIDI keyboards to the Korg, because what the Korg is doing is it's just doing action. There's like some onboard sounds, but there is no functionality whatsoever. It is just a keyboard to play. And so with this keyboard, it feels a little bit stiffer. I've played on some of the older, Mark II and Mark I versions. Those were unbearably stiff. I could not stand playing on those. This one doesn't feel nearly as stiff as the predecessors. And so it is a little bit stiffer than what I'm used to. The weight of the keys just feels a little bit stiffer. I've already kind of gotten used to it, and I imagine that the more I play on it, the more I'm going to get used to it. But just know that, like, if you play a Nord Stage 2, which is up there and, top-notch piano action, and then you play a Korg D1, you play some of the super realistic MIDI keyboards out there that really reflect, piano action accurately. This might be a little bit jarring. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it really comes down to what type of music you're playing. I know that I'm talking about something that a lot of people probably don't super care about. It's like, yeah, I don't care if it's a little stiff, because I'm playing a lot of whole notes and a lot of quarter notes. And honestly, that's 98% of what I do when I remote track is just, doing size, doing meat, recording a lot of big chords. Maybe sometimes I'll do, some cute stuff. I'm not typically shredding. And so if you are like, dude, I'm a classical pianist and I just need a keyboard that's gonna replicate a piano feel, this isn't the keyboard for you, as is most keyboards. A lot of keyboards aren't going for that sliver of the market. Besides that, all the integration is awesome. So let's kind of talk about, some of the things that this keyboard has to offer. Let me pull this screen up. So here's the MIDI software. So, you know, the MIDI keyboard has all the normal connections on the back. I'm using 5-pin MIDI. I'm also plugged into the USB-C port so I can connect the computer to the keyboard. What that does mean is you'll have to go into like Logic or Live or whatever you're using and disable one of the MIDI sources from your computer so you don't send double MIDI to your DAW. And so it's really easy to do. Whatever DAW you're in, you can figure that out. But, you know, a lot of these controls are assignable and changeable, so you could change, you know, the mod wheel to a breath control if you wanted. You can change these banks to whatever you wanted. The transport controls aren't changeable. You can change these buttons. You can change these faders and encoders. And so typically, if you need to like hard map change these encoders, you would do it here. If you just need to do assign parameters, you would do that in the DAW. But if you need to hard change, you know, some parameters, you could do it in here. And then you have your device settings, you know, your DAW protocol. This is designed to integrate with whatever DAW you're using. The only DAW that I don't see here is like a Nuendo. I don't know anyone that makes music in Nuendo, so I think you're covered as far as what protocol and what integration you can have. But yeah, you can change a ton of different settings in here. Most of these settings, if not all of them, are on the touchscreen down here, which we'll, you know, talk about in a second. But this software exists. Not every keyboard has a software that you can, you know, use, but it does have it. You can save templates and device memories and, you know, kind of toggle through other Arturia keyboards if you have them. But the software is awesome. So let me talk about just some of the controls. I'm going to switch over to recording on my phone so y'all can see this. So here's kind of what what it looks like. You got your octave, transpose, pitch, modulation. Here is, you know, your banks. You can do, you know, there's up to four different banks that you can toggle through. So if you want to have 4 different unique mappings here, you can do that here. Settings, program changes and MIDI changes. At least the Arturia KeyLab 49 that I have has these same parameters, but you can do a lot of fun things in there. Transport controls are awesome. I've actually been using these quite a bit. Stop, play, record, tap tempo, click, rewind, turn your locator region on and off. Those are actually super helpful. I know I'm only saving myself like, you know, 0.2 of a second by not reaching up here and doing it, but it is nice to just have it here. And then some other controls, you know, whole chord, scale, arpeggio, or arpeggiator, save, quantize, undo, and redo. I don't use these as much just because I'm so used to using the keyboard, but this is nice to have, especially when you want your hands close to being ready. You know, it's just, I don't know, it's nice. Here's the touchscreen. We'll dig into this second, and then your faders and encoders and all that stuff. So if I go over here and hit settings, it's gonna change to the settings here. And so there's a lot of cool things that you can kind of, you know, dig in through here. You got your global curve, so you can actually set the velocity curve to the keyboard on the keyboard itself, which is nice because not every plugin offers that. Global curve settings, pedal calibration. This is super helpful. If you've ever plugged into a keyboard and the polarity's flipped and the pedal doesn't have a polarity flip, you know, you have to do it in the keyboard, and some older keyboards don't even have this functionality. I just played a gig recently where that was the case, and I had to get a whole new keyboard because the pedal didn't have a flip and the keyboard didn't have a flip. And the old trick of like, you know, sustaining it with your hand and then plugging in or turning it on and hoping it, you know, offsets, that didn't work either. So tons of calibration settings in here. MIDI through aux pedal, pad settings, acceleration settings, DAW protocol. So if you want to change what DAW you're using, you can do it here. Display brightness, I love bright screens, so 100 for me. Sleep mode, if you wanted to go to sleep longer or shorter. If you don't want the welcome page. I don't know what low power mode do. I mean, I know what low power modes are. I don't know how that affects this, but I don't need that. And then, you know, keyboard settings. You can split the keyboard if you want, aftertouch settings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get your wheel settings, pedals, encoders, faders, pads, buttons, all the different settings. So there's a lot of settings you can tweak in this. The touchscreen actually looks, you know, I don't think it's 4K or anything, but it is, you know, a touchscreen that doesn't look pixelated and weird. It actually, you know, actually looks pretty decent. So that is kind of the the look and feel of it. So let's talk about the integration that it has specifically with the Arturia products themselves. So I did a review on the Arturia V collection, I don't know, a month, 2 months ago. It is still 2 months after this video, probably my favorite synth pack I've ever bought. It has so many synths. If you haven't gone and watched that video, definitely go do it. But it comes with all of these, I mean, just classics. I haven't played on all those in like real life on the real thing, but I've played on a lot of them, and I've definitely played on like this guy, because this is the I forget what those last few notes are, but this is, you know, the classic sound for that song. That's why it's called Jump. The cool thing is, you know, in this plugin, because it integrates with the Arturia products, well, I can actually change patches off of the keyboard. And so let's pull up a patch that I really like, which is, where is it? It's coming. Everyday World Art. This is a good example. So all these faders and encoders down here, they've kind of pre-mapped them to, I'm assuming what they would assume is stuff that you'd want to change. You can remap these however you want, but they do come out of the box with some assumed mappings. So I can do like filter envelopes, decay, sustain, release. Mod. Then the encoders. Let me get back to this. So the integration is really nice. There is something about, you know, one of the arguments for having hardware synth over software synth is just hands-on, and this kind of gives you some of that. It'll never be just like, you know, the real thing. It sounds the same. Maybe there's a 1% difference, but there is a hands-on element that is nice to have about a real synth. So this kind of gives you that option, even if you want to program these to do different things in the synth. It's just nice to be able to kind of play the thing live, like. I would never do that, but. You know, do some live, like, spreading. But that kind of stuff makes all the difference. You know, if you're playing like a little swell up into a section. You know, little things like that make all the difference in just quality of recordings. And so, yeah, that's, the integration's super cool to me. So that's kind of this keyboard. You know, again, the one thing that I'll say is just, it is a little bit of a stiffer keyboard than what I'm used to. But I'm already getting used to it, and I think, you know, give me another week or two, and it'll be just like any other keyboard. So that's kind of the caveat. If you're, you know, a classically trained pianist that is looking for a piano to shred on, this probably isn't the keyboard for you. I feel okay saying that because I don't think that market is what Arturia is going after with this keyboard. They're going for a balance of integration with heavyweight, somewhat realistic feeling. And so I love it. I might pull the Korg out every once in a while to do, you know, a certain recording or whatever, but you know, this thing will probably be around for a while just because I use these synths so much, at least currently, and the integration is nice to be able to just record live and just kind of play the synth like an instrument and not program it afterwards and all the weird stuff. And so, yeah, I love this thing. Go check it out. I'll have links below for you to look at it, but I love this thing. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see y'all later.